Hello and welcome to another special episode of the Offside Musings Podcast. My name is Okey. It's my delight to welcome you back along with my co-host Emeka Onyagwa. Today we have a truly, I'll say special, I'll say controversial conversation around recent statements made by the governor of Anambra State, Charles Chukwuma Soludo, regarding the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, who himself was a governor in Anambra State and therefore Soludo's predecessor. Soludo last week did an interview with Channels Television where he suggested that the much discussed investment that Peter Obi made before he left the governorship in Anambra State amounted to very little. That statement was seen by Obi's supporters and fans as a kind of broadside against their candidate. And so they came out in full force, mostly on social media, against Soludo. Soludo, in a lot of ways, then responded a few days ago with a statement which he himself composed. And the short of it was basically that he said that Peter Obi has no pathway to the presidency, that Peter Obi is a pretend presidential candidate, and he proposed that Peter Obi got it wrong when he rejected an invitation by him, Soludo, to run as a presidential candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, the party under which Peter Obi became governor and the party that Soludo currently belongs to. So, as you can imagine, Soludo's statement has unleashed a greater frenzy of, I won't call it conversation, I'll call it just mutual shouting and savaging on both sides. And so today we're going to try to bring a sense of sanity and a little bit of clarity to some of the issues raised by this, what I will call uncivil war between the current governor of Anambra State and one of his predecessors. So welcome to this episode.
All right.
So,
All right.
I know you're very passionate about this issue, and you know I'm very passionate, but we have different takes, I suspect, on the issues around this whole, what I've called an uncivil war between two eminent Anambra citizens. So I don't know if you wanted to jump in or if you wanted me to make my opening entry.
First things first, right?
Okay.
First things first, right? Since the comments, Peter Obi hasn't responded fully in person, right?
Yes.
It's just been okay. So yeah, so start. Don't worry. I will.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is my take. Soludo was on Channels Television to discuss his budget, his proposed budget. The anchor of the program then asked him a question related to the money that Peter Obi reportedly invested for Anambra State prior to leaving office as governor. At first, Peter Obi pushed back and said he was a guest of the television station to speak about his budget. But in a rather roundabout way, he made a snide comment that the much discussed investment that Peter Obi made did not amount to much. So the way I read it, the way I heard it was It's possible that Peter Obi invested some money, but the investment has failed to yield. So it hasn't come to much in terms of yield. But also it can be read, it can be heard as Soludo saying pretty much that what Peter Obi invested was a poor choice of investment, and so that it is not something that he wanted to dignify with a conversation. Once he said that, I think that a lot of people came down and began to read motives. Some people felt and stated that he was jealous of Obi and Obi's bright political stars, and that he wanted to undermine Obi's presidential ambitions so that he will have the possibility in future of running perhaps as the Igbo candidate for the presidency. And there were all kinds of, and then people made comments about his tenure so far as governor, suggesting that he's been mediocre and suggesting that Obi was a star governor. And so Soludo then, as it were, doubled down with the statement that he made a few days ago, where he basically was quite dismissive of Obi's political prospects. So here's what this is where I stand, right? Mm-hmm. I've always said that citizens should be able to openly, honestly, and candidly criticize political candidates of any political party, of any ethnic extraction. So fundamentally, I don't see anything wrong with Soludo being critical of Peter Obi. As Soludo himself states in his subsequent statement, his political party, APGA, has his own presidential candidate, a former Chief Justice of Anambra State, Peter Obi. And so in a lot of ways, Soludo is saying that is the person he's committed to. Of course, for most Nigerians, that is news that there is a political candidate called Peter Obi. So for a lot of people, it is actually Soludo's. It's actually so for a lot of people, it's actually in Soludo's statement that they're hearing the name Peter Obi for the first time. I happen to know the man, and he's actually a very intellectually savvy man. I gave a reading sometime in Anambra State, and he came, so I know him personally, not closely, so I met him once or twice. So I don't think he's a pushover intellectually, but I clearly think he's a pushover politically. I don't think that even in Anambra State that a lot of people know that, and he's from Anambra State. So I don't think that a lot of people know that that he's a political candidate. So here is where I have my misgivings about Soludo's statement. I thought that Soludo, if he was at a radio station, at the television, Channels Television, if he was on Channels Television to talk about his budget, I thought that Soludo should have stuck to that point, that on principle, that he was there to talk about his budget. And if on a different occasion he felt called upon to go talk about the prospects of Peter Obi or the prospects of the APGA presidential candidate, that he should then announce that he's coming to discuss such matters. So that's one. So I think that is some kind of mistake for him to enter the debate, as it were, tangentially or through the back door. The other matter is that his subsequent statement, where he was dismissive of Peter Obi's prospects seemed to me intemperate and unbecoming of a governor. So it reminded me of a kind of, where, a bunch of children, engaging in the dozens, your mama there, your papa, I think that Soludo could have taken the high ground to say, hey, if Peter Obi wins the presidency, I'm happy for him. He's from Anambra State. I have my doubts about his prospects, but I leave it up to Nigerians. Now, his statement dismissed Obi's candidature. It's almost as if he's guaranteeing that there are only two political candidates, basically, and he sees Obi as a kind of spoiler, and a spoiler for the PDP. And he says that if he were Tinubu, he would actually start paying Peter Obi for spoiling the PDP's prospects.
Yep.
So, and I think that Soludo perhaps is misreading politics here, right? So, in almost any other electoral cycle, I would agree that any candidate that wasn't from the APC or the PDP is basically an also-ran candidate. But I think that the energy that the youth have brought to Peter Obi's campaign, the passion of their investment in that campaign, the way in which they have seen that campaign as embodying their desires and their ambitions and their hopes, has changed the equation somewhat. So I don't think that Peter Obi is as much of a pushover as Soludo suggested. Now, I have always said that I can't say that Peter Obi is definitely going to win the presidency. I can't even say that he's going to come second. But I clearly do not see Peter Obi in the same shoes, say, as some of the also ran candidates in the last set of general elections, also ran presidential candidates. I think that Peter Obi is capable of doing serious damage, not only within the Southeast, but indeed in the middle belt of Nigeria and substantially in the Niger Delta. And perhaps, contrary to Soludo's argument, that Peter Obi could actually make a major dent in the Southwest. So I think that there is a particular furor by young people that young people expect Peter Obi to carry their dreams forward. And from what I see, a lot of them are working hard. A lot of them have got their PVCs. A lot of them are mobilizing in a big way for Peter Obi. But Soludo uses the usual metrics. He talks about the Labour Party not being able to pick up candidates in a lot of states, governorship candidates and even senatorial and House of Reps candidates. So that's something to look at. Because if Peter Obi has this groundswell that some people expect will see him to the presidency, you would expect that a lot of people will want to ride his coattails also into political office, but we don't see that. So we are now at the level of the ground game. Some of Peter Obi's political campaigns, especially in the North, have been flops, but some of his campaigns in the central parts of Nigeria and in a state like Edo State have been really stunning in terms of the outpouring of support that we have seen, the number of people who have come out. So I think that Obi is a factor in the next elections, and it's not a factor to be easily dismissed. And there are so many moving parts. And so I wished that, whilst not wishing that Soludo would be silent, because he has the right, and I really want to emphasize that everybody has the right to question political figures and also to question the very concept of Nigeria itself. But Soludo seemed to me to go a bit too far and seemed to suggest that there was something intensely personal rather than just the normal exchange between two men who in Soludo's account actually call each other brothers. So I want to pause there for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, this election season is interesting. I mean, you got to give it to them. This period is interesting. All the factors coming in, the dollar going over 800 naira, losing essentially, for those who might not understand that, having lost about since I think I went with my family to Nigeria in 2019. It's lost somewhere around 100% it's of its value since then in 3 years. And since this new administration came into office, it's lost probably about 200-300. It's gone from somewhere around, I think, 200 or something. I'm not too sure. All the way to going to, for $1 going to 8 something. I think it even got to like 870 or something, somewhere around there, right? So, and obviously there's no corresponding distance. A lot of people want to run. A lot of people are trying to relocate. So all this is fitting into the drama. Let's just put it that way. Right? It's fitting into the drama, man. It's pretty interesting. So you have a guy who pops in, who is the chosen one. He has a very sexy baritone voice. Yeah. I'm sure if I was a lady, I might be tripping up to get sometimes. He has this shiny bald head, black chocolate bald head that these ladies in America will be, So he stands there, no, he looks so, it's like, wow, this guy is the chosen one. And this guy finally gets, and that is Soludo, supposedly a professor of economics, undergrad, master's, and PhD at University of Nigeria, Nsukka, which is my father's alma mater. My father went to Nsukka and also went to University of Southern California. He's been CBN governor. He comes in there, the golden child, all that stuff. Well supports. He had drama at his inauguration over senatorial distance. And since then, he's gone into office, right? It's been almost a year or more now, right?
He was sworn in March this year. So it will be 1 year in March of next year. So
he's been almost a year in office. It's been almost more than a year since he won the elections, I think.
Yeah, he won the elections in November of last year. So it's actually a year.
So for those who don't know, you could go back, check out our episode on that. Fantastic column on that as well, the Anambra Parable for Nigeria. So since then, it's been quiet, right? And people haven't asked questions about him since then. Because people have been more focused on everything. And I mean, when I say everything, to even blink your eye in Nigeria, we're there in April. And we've been talking about going this year, and everybody's like, please,
don't come.
So people have been more distant and less concerned about what's happening in Anambra. On one side, that's something we'll come to, what's happening in Anambra, which is not much, actually less than much, but that's on one side. That's not the distant. Then you have Peter Obi, right? Rise, a lot of articles have been covering him of late. They're talking of going from places like CNN, The Economist, so many, what they call it, so many distance have covered his rise. I've seen a lot of YouTubers, Ghanaian YouTubers, but Ghanaians are talking about how they can have that kind of energy because they are stuck in the exact same situation that we in Nigeria are stuck in. Two parties wrecking the country. They've already changed currency like 10 years ago, blah, blah, blah. The key difference in Ghana is that at least is overall is safer than Nigeria. Nigeria has become so angry and so violent and so much, it's so unsafe. So, yeah, Peter will be rising and all that. Now, just like you said, he goes on channels to go and defend his budget. So
you mean Soludo now, right?
Soludo at this point in time, yes. I'm using the parallels.
Mm-hmm.
So Soludo at this point in time goes to defend his budget and he's asked the question. And I don't know the man personally. I don't think I've seen him in one. I probably have. I don't really know him, but I've heard he has an arrogance. But that's just he say, she say. I can't prove it. Until now.
So now
until now
it's
there's
beyond
now
question.
Sample size. There's now a sample size. You were there and they asked you about Peter Obi. You might have your differences with him, and that's fine. They're both about the same age, by the way. You can have your differences with him. They have a lot of similarities. They both went to UNN. A lot of similarities. They're both from Anambra. So you could have some level of irritation with him. But as a public official, you need to learn to do certain things. So he goes in there and then he gets asked a question and he dismisses this thing, like you said. Could be one or two things. It could be that the value of this thing wasn't there.
The investment.
Or the investment is not valued as much as it was. Or to him, it was a bad investment. Either of which he didn't elaborate on. People got angry. And for some of them, and quite justifiably, they didn't see it as a mistake. They saw it as a Freudian slip. A Freudian slip. Saw it as that is what he thinks. He's irritated, and this thing, and he got attacked. And now I get the Soludo thing, right? People apparently attacked him, mostly this thing, and then he goes in, and overnight we turn on our, at least for most of us, we turn on our these things, and then we see a 26 paragraph response. I think the 25th paragraph is like, and you go through it, it's like, wow. It's like, wow. First is first, he said he's responding because he feels the obedience, as he would frame them, or the Mumunians, or whatever he wants to call them. Not my words, man. I can't even vote because I don't live in the country, by the way, so I can only talk. The obedience threatening his life, and there was an a shooting and a killing in the states that he said
an attempted
was
attack.
supposed to be for.
Yes.
So that's what he said, and he said that because of that, he's going to respond. And he was going to respond, which I'm going to get into in the rest of the 24 paragraphs that he put down. Which, if your logic really, if we to take you for your word really, if what he's saying really is that he feels his life is at threat because of what was a slip, should have been a slip, quote unquote. But we now have, based on his response, it clearly wasn't a slip. Based on this, I mean, if you look at it logically, there's no logical argument you can get around it. That's his view. For better or worse, for better or worse, or this thing. I always say this thing about a lot of us. Some people are blessed to have, especially for some of us Nigerians, Black people, Igbo people from that zone, we are blessed to have strong characters in a family who are able to stand on their own and are able to be positive about other people doing well within the family. But generally, my relatives, a lot of relatives, I always say that our pronouns are I, me, mine. Those are our pronouns. Hey man, even in the much as we say our,
you're talking
our is not.
You're talking about Igbo land or Nigeria?
Igbo land, Nigeria in this case, even in the much as we say our, our is as much as the I is defining the our. There's our pronouns are all personal. They are not. They are not. I know we have all the Harvard study and there and here and there, and I know people will say, "Hey," which is similar what's happening in Yoruba land, what they did with the Emiloka, Mr. Swaju, has gone to do with the Afenifere group, which a whole bunch of interviews like Dele Fasorati, who is actually a member of Afenifere, was responding to, which I actually watched I watched like an hour of the clip on my way back yesterday. I watched it way back around midnight. I listened to the whole clip because I wanted to, he's a member of Afenifere, so it made sense. I know people would draw that part, that this thing, but in this case, we're talking about Igbo land. And I'd rather keep it that way because of the contents of and the response. So he goes in, it's all, I feel threatened, so I have to respond. Essentially, if you felt threatened you're saying you have a right to say what you want, essentially, which is what you should come out and say, he didn't say that, he didn't address that, but contents of letter shows like, okay, this is the way I feel. I respect people when they come out and say, essentially, I mean, what he's saying, he didn't say that this thing, but if you paraphrase it and you put it together, he's saying, screw you, Obi. I don't care about you. I think you're a terrible governor. I think you're a terrible person. I think you don't listen to me. I think you should come to me and we should sit down essentially, that's why this is me paraphrasing him. You should come to me and we should sit down in the Ohanes, the Igbo group. And in 8 years, we'll strategize on how to, but you don't want to listen to me. Go there and read it yourself. It is personal.
Yeah.
It is very illogical. It doesn't make sense that if you felt threatened, you couldn't have just come out and said, look, man, and by the way, people have always said that the breweries that came to Anambra belongs to Obi. And what he said there in the letter too is that Obi himself had shares there, which I think Obi hasn't denied. He skates around it. But the brewery still belongs to SAB Miller. Doesn't belong to Obi. His family clearly has shares there. He's clearly, even in the last campaign around Atiku, he didn't directly say no. Like, go watch the interviews there. I've always been very, it's there. He says himself, like, you could argue over that, all those kind of things. But, back to the letter before we start talking about, because you can get lost in the weeds of these things. He sits down and so many things, like things I personally don't like. I don't like stuff like when you want to do your own thing, you start talking up comparatively. It's like, oh, the Yorubas are doing this, which is what he says there. So you should come and do what the Yorubas are doing. Why don't you say you're a first-class intellectual, supposedly, quote and unquote, at this point, there was nothing intellectual about this letter, far from it. Why don't you come up with, what is this? You say come and join Ohanese, you say come and do this, but you don't come up with any kind of this thing, but just come and follow what I'm saying. But, we'll get more into the weeds of the letter. The point is very illogical to say you feel threatened and then double down on the reason why people perceive, which was if he had come out and said, look, blah, 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 and then died the matter. Instead, he came out it's like, this is a guy with an ego. Well, for sure.
Okay. So Soludo has that reputation, again, unlike you, I've definitely met him. I won't call him a friend. I've actually been very critical of him in the past, way before he became governor. But there are certain undeniable things. Soludo is well-grounded, well-respected as an economist and a scholar in that area. I think he had a very good tenure as central bank governor in Nigeria. He streamlined the banking industry to some extent during Obasanjo's time. So the point that you're making about, on the one hand, him saying that he's under attack, and then he comes out and even gives a more blistering attack. In some ways, and I always like to look at issues from, a perspective that is not necessarily fashionable. You and I have talked about an extensive interview that I did with Rudolph Okonkwo, okay, for I think almost 4 hours. And in that interview, despite my history of being critical of Obi when he was governor, and I criticized him a lot, and I have not backed away from any of that criticism. Despite the fact that Obi and I had a falling out because his government lied against me, his chief spokesman, Valo Benyem, wrote a piece against me that was a lie, and I actually threatened to go to court to force a retraction. In spite of all of that, people have seen his videos talking about my mom. So he and my mom had a very close, he regarded my mother as his mom, and my mom reciprocated by regarding Obi as her son. So when I was criticizing Obi, my mom would always call me and say, hey, why not call him and speak to him? Both of you are like, my sons, and so on and so forth. So Obi and I have that history. It's a complicated history, right? And I have celebrated certain things about him, the tenacity with which he pursued the governorship of Anambra State after the PDP under President Obasanjo had rigged in Dr. Chris Ngige as governor. I kept writing that Obi that it wasn't up to him even to choose to give up his governorship, that he must pursue it. And I was happy that he did pursue it, and ultimately that he won in court. But so despite all this complicated history, I have been particularly, I think, generous to Obi in his bid for the governorship. So I gave this extended interview where I basically said that Obi was running the most intellectually exciting and vibrant campaign for the presidency. That unlike the two other major candidates, that he was speaking to the issues, right? And speaking to the issues, not always in a verifiable way, because his mantra is go and verify, and some people have verified some of his claims and found them wanting, and found them, even some of them, false. But I still like the fact that he's coming up with ideas, that he's wrestling with how do we diversify the Nigerian economy? How do we turn things around in the country? How do we become a productive economy? How do we create jobs for young people and so on? But just because I said that Obi tends to overpromise, and that was carried by the cable news as a report, the avalanche of attacks that I got from the so-called obedience, it can be extremely exasperating. There's a quality of ignorance among some people, and surprisingly young people in Nigeria.
So wait, right? Since we're talking about this particular this thing,
yeah,
right?
So I want to
because people are always talking about, and sorry, I guess it ties into the same thing. Obi himself, has not attacked you in this cycle.
No.
He has attacked you in the past.
Yes.
Indirectly. Yes. He has done that to you indirectly. And what they did as a collective was very wrong. Very despicable. Because you could go into the details of that. But similar to Soludo, he wrote this 26 paragraphs, right? Obi himself has not attacked Soludo.
Yeah. So right? so let me make a point, right?
So
let me make a point, because I have said already that if I were Soludo and I went to Channels Television, I'll stick to the fact that I've come here to discuss my budget. If there is another occasion where he returns and he says to the station, listen, I want to discuss the presidential race, and then he can say this, and he should have the right to come out and say, listen, part of what has given Peter Obi this luster of a great presidential candidate is the investment that he made of Anambra State funds. He can go to the television and say, listen, that investment is actually peanuts. I don't begrudge him that. If it is peanuts, he should say so. And if it is not peanuts, Obi is there. Obi is alive. Obi can come out to the station tomorrow and say, this is how much I invested and this is how much is grown and so on. Do you understand? So for me, criticisms are not fatal to a strong candidate. But what some of Peter Obi's, not all, not Peter Obi himself, but some of his rabid supporters, the impression they give is that Peter Obi is somewhat a sacred subject that you cannot say anything critical of. So even when I praise the man as running a vibrant campaign, but I said he tends to overpromise, which is true. Because Nigeria is in such bad shape that if Obi wins, there is no way he can do but a tiny fraction of some of the expectations and some of the hopes that is raised. And that's my point. I'm saying tamp down the expectations that you're raising because Nigeria is so far behind. Our resources are gone. The government is now borrowing money to pay salaries and so on. So even if you meant to revolutionize Nigeria, you don't have the resources to do that.
But that's a different. But you should understand.
Yes.
I'm sorry to keep, but you should understand. Like I get 100%. Do not disagree with you. We agree on the situation of Nigeria. We literally agree on the fact that I'm like, you need a strong man to just come and take over this thing somehow, some way.
You said so.
Some kind of benevolent dictator, pretty much. Come on, this is a mess, right? So we don't disagree on that. Like I've even gone a little bit farther than you before and say like, look, man. But where I sit down, I thought, look, we want a campaign. Politicians are going to lie. It's life, man. I wish you go back to the Greeks, the Romans, go back to Sophocles. Let me not even go there. Just go back to anywhere. Politicians are typically going to lie.
Yeah.
Some people will call them, do you have a white lie or is your lie in pursuant of, there are all kinds of, if you're in a political distant field, people have all these distance, I get. To expect a candidate to be saying exactly what they will do, in all honesty, is also going to be a lie. Because you really can't tell what you will do until you get into office. The best you can do is have the best of intentions. But there's something you'll always say before Obi's campaign took over, which is true. People always need somebody to give them hope.
Absolutely.
So I get the man embellishes, man. But people always need someone to give them hope.
That is what the wind that has, that his sails have used is that wind of hope that a lot of Nigerian youth who are close to despair look at him and they say, this is a man who is talking like he knows what he's doing or what he's done or what he's going to do. So he gives people that hope, right? But what I'm saying is that as he does that, he should not expect a free ride, is one thing that I'm saying. Much as I say that Soludo should have stuck to, I'm here to discuss my budget. That's what I would have done, but I'm not Soludo. So I respect that Soludo did what he did. I give him his right. What is bad then is for these sometimes unintelligent social media tyrants to take off and, and it's possible that Soludo is envious. What do I know? It's possible. It's possible that Soludo is praying for Obi to fail so that he himself will have a shot at running for the presidency. But when you declare it that is the fact, okay, instead of it is possible, then a man like Soludo might feel, hey, I'm being attacked, my integrity is being impugned. I actually need to come out and say that I don't see this as a serious campaign. Now, I disagree with him there. I see Obi as a very serious campaign. I see Obi as a campaign that is capable of surprising Nigerians in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
I will not.
I mean, if you look at these, you look at these things, right? if you are Soludo, well, you studied economics, so I guess you're supposed to be good with numbers, which I'm going to come to now, right? You're supposed to be good with managing. I don't know what his PhD was on, but it's economics, so you should know macro and microeconomics and all that stuff, right? You should know it technically, right? Might not be your field of this thing, but if Obi supporters they have conduct or this thing that is unbecoming, you have two options, right? You speak to Obi either directly or directly face to face or directly through mediums like this, right? Or you speak to the supporters directly. Tell them like, look, man, exactly like what we try to do. Sometimes they will be like, well, yeah, no, but look, we think this, you think this, and this. You can attack me or you can disagree with me or you want. We're in a house, man. We live in houses with spouses and kids, and even the little ones sometimes will decide, oh no, I'm not going, So people will disagree with you sometimes. And sometimes you might have to be harder on them. And sometimes you might have to sit down and be like, look, listen to me, or this is why I'm telling you this. All these things change. All these things are all dependent on the circumstances, on so many factors, right? So to sit down and go after Obi, as if, unless you're telling me that Obi is sending these people to insult you.
Yeah, precisely.
And that's why I differentiated with what happened to you before and what happens to you now.
And that's something that's really surprised me, because he said he's been vilified on social media, and he seemed to think that will be unleashed these attacks. And I know that that's not the truth. I know that the social media is an arena where everybody is their own captain. People have access to data. People have access to a phone, to a computer. They sit there and they write what they may, okay? So it speaks then to Soludo's temperament, that he then says, oh, people who love you are attacking me, so I read that as an attack from you, so I'm going to come out and unleash on you. And that's where I think that he made a huge mistake. He should have waited. If Peter Obi responded to him, so he should have risen above, as I said, one, he should have ignored, or he should have avoided going into the whole question of, the kind of investment to be left, right? Unless he wanted to go into it. And if I don't even mind going into it if you want.
Wait
a minute. Okay, so if he wanted to go into it, he should not then sort of be circuitous about it. He should not be apologetic about it. He should say, hey, I've been hearing all of these things. Let me tell you now, as the governor, I have access to that information. It is nothing. So let's dispel this, right? In which case, if Obi felt that his characterization of his investment was misleading, perhaps we'll then get on channels and say, hey, I want to correct the governor. This is how much I invested, and this is the yield so far, right? But so he did what I would not have done. I would have stuck to my position that I was here to discuss my budget. He deviated from that. Having done that, I would not have then issued this intemperate attack on Obi's sort of this ad hominem assessment, unless Obi or somebody who is his close advisor or principal who would have discussed it with Obi came out to attack me. Then I'll say, okay, this person is a kind of stand-in for Obi, so I might as well regard it as an attack.
If I know Obi surrogate attacked him, I would even accept that.
So
he didn't attack
at the moment, then it will look like two unprovoked punches at Obi. Okay, it will look as if Soludo, has been sort of written under some kind of strain about the Obi phenomenon and had been looking for an opportunity to unleash. So it remains to see how Obi and his camp are going to.
They haven't responded.
They have not responded, and from what I hear, because I know some people who are, close to Soludo, I hear that Soludo is actually willing to open it up if Obi will come out, or somebody close to Obi will come out in response, right? But again, it's entertainment for some people, right? So for Obi's opponents, this is great material. This is something they can invoke. They can say, hey, even the governor of Obi state is saying that it's not guaranteed that Obi would actually carry his state, okay? And definitely he doesn't believe that Obi is going to carry the Southeast. So that's political capital for Obi's opponents. But for a lot more people, even Obi's supporters, it's some kind of theater. It's entertainment. And there's an aspect of politics.
I don't know. I disagree. Some Obi supporters are taking it even more seriously. So
I know they are. But what I'm saying is that they see it as it's like a rougher situation. Okay, this guy has spoken. Let's get on the stage and let's throw sand at him. So in that way they get excited. It's like we're the mob that will go and respond on behalf of Obi, and so on.
You know the best part of this whole response, right? Even the comment that started the whole thing, right? He puts it in a paragraph, right? He puts it in this thing. I remember the exact paragraph. And he comes here and says, some refer to this thing that of all kinds of figure, how the 12 million is now worth less than 3 million. He's writing it there. That, how that 12 million is worth less than. Then he starts rambling about debates and it's like, it gets to a paragraph where he talks about he was the one that secured Nigeria's debt forgiveness. I'm like, this guy is delusional, man, really? Like, you were the one, as a central bank governor, you're not even like the Federal Reserve of America that has like the authority to buy assets, like depreciating assets. Central bank governor, all you do is literally manage some parts of the economy. You're not the debt management office. And in fact, let's not even go into that. Most people accurately, in and out, give the biggest credit to Okonjo-Iweala.
Yeah.
Obasanjo and Atiku tried to take that. Atiku tried to take some of that credit by saying he brought that to Obasanjo. Obasanjo tries to take that credit by, Obasanjo wants everything to be about him, literally. So, and then he removes her, he assigns her before she goes back, right? But this guy goes there and unequivocally says that he's the one taking credit from every other person. That he's the one that did it. It's like, bro, come on, man.
As you said, politicians is in the nature of politicians to inflate themselves, and this is an occasion then for the debate to be joined. I'm sure that at some point somebody is going to interview Okonjo-Iweala and say, hey, Soludo said this. Maybe she will choose not to. Maybe she will laugh. Maybe she will diss him. But for some Nigerians, this country is so bleak that for some Nigerians, this is actually welcome distraction and welcome entertainment. And for me, therefore, this is where I sort of this is where I have a kind of departure, okay? In the end, any hauling or flinging of insults across political lines or divides doesn't interest me, because I no longer have time to be entertained. I used to, because the country is bleak, okay? You just mentioned how, people are telling you not to come to Nigeria, okay? People in Nigeria, more and more people in Nigeria are calling to say, can you help me leave the country? And a country does not develop, does not go from point A to point B when its most youthful, sometimes its most brainy citizens are driven out of the country. And the country is then left in the hands of knaves and mediocrities and just charlatans. Okay, so in the end, this is what I want to see. I want to see Soludo, instead of saying APGA has its candidate, I want to see the APGA candidate get a forum where he says to people, right, instead of Peter Obi, follow me because this is what I'm going to do. I want to see the other two political parties, APC and PDP, which recently have been embroiled in all this debate and controversy over what Tinubu did with drug money and, how much money was taken from him by U.S. authorities and all. I want to see them ultimately. Of course, that speaks to the character of candidates, right? So it's germane, it's pertinent to the debate. But more than that, I want to see them say, this is how we see sectoral problems in Nigeria. And these are the viable solutions that we're proposing for those problems. So it's an unsexy kind of politics, but it's a policy-driven, it's an issue-driven political fray, rather than one in which people just, throw yabis at one another. And one side feels, hey, our side yabbed the other side more today. So
I will say two things before I will jump into the electoral stats and the guy started quoting polling. Let me say it in Igbo. And he made polling in Nigeria. I mean, my guy, man, we are having trouble with polling in America.
Yeah.
And we have decent connection and decent responses. And you're talking about
all kinds
people
of
that polled
metrics and demographical information.
that polled in Nigeria, that don't even, an American company doesn't poll anywhere in the world, but they manage, an American registered company. I forgot to say what they call it, somewhere here. They polled, and then he goes on to say, he has more privileged information, literally, for the quote, than the common person, essentially the OB person. He knows more. There is no path to anywhere. I mean, there's no other conclusion, but that's personal. And
clearly.
And then he throws shots at. Well, you talked about the current candidate. He throws shots at what has been some long-standing misunderstanding, which I would even call our level of anti-Semitism in Nigeria against Igbo people. The long-standing misunderstanding about Igbos. It's anti-Semitic, really. The same kind of thing. Where the Igbos want to dominate, Igbos this, Igbos that. And then finally, we had a Jonathan who comes into power and is essentially powered by the Igbo people. And then even when he gets, by Igbo people, even when he gets into office, most of the people he appoints are Igbo people. It doesn't solve the entire, what I call anti-Semitism with the other Eastern region ethnic groups, but it starts to heal that rift, right? Soludo goes in his statement to say that the only reason that the Igbo supported this thing is because APGA didn't have a candidate. It's like, bro, man, you're just taking shots at everything. You have a machine gun and you're trying to shoot at anybody that comes in sight. Like, why are you taking shots at? You're trying to say that Igbos only supported Jonathan because APGA didn't have a candidate.
And of
they
course,
didn't want to support Jonathan. Jonathan is more or less
an
in some ways,
yes, a kind of incidental beneficiary.
Oh my!
The piece has monumental. It has a series of monumental gaps, and it's part of what, because from everybody who knows Soludo personally, I understand that he truly wrote this piece by himself and circulated it, and it's both admirable that you have the occupant of a political office who is capable of stringing sentences together, because it's not, most of our governors cannot.
Very low bar.
Well, most of our governors cannot write two sentences, sound sentences to save their lives. So So, give it to him. He wrote with some kind of sophistication in terms of, rules of disputation, but then that's also the pitfall. That when you are a governor, when you are in a major political office, that there is a certain way that you are expected to conduct yourself is no longer, because what you say, right, will have bearings and consequences, not just for yourself, but for other people. So, so some people are saying, okay, you're going to be, for daring to do this, you're going to be a one-time governor. And he himself said, he just lifts it up to God and so on. But then,
I think his only recovery is,
yes,
it depends on how Obi handles it.
Yeah,
if Obi doesn't, I don't see, short of Obi winning the presidency, I don't see a large part of people. But I was having this conversation today, and I always forget. Like, people talk about Nnamdi Kanu coming out, whatever it used to call him, right? Nnamdi Kanu coming out. They only want to release him because they want to divide the supports in the East and all that. And I forget that Obi is closely associated with the reformed version of the rehabilitated and reformed version of Ojukwu. That even if Nnamdi Kanu came out and assaulted his distant, he actually does have that reservoir, that bank to still pull from. Something that we saw early on when Bianca, the only statement she's released, even when the slap happened, she just said everybody should leave her alone. But with Obi, she came out with the whole statement in support of him in terms of his candidacy. So he's still, and generally you'd say, even though Bianca is not the entire Ojukwu descent leftovers, no, not leftovers, but family per se. He has older kids and all those kind of things. Bianca does have a huge sway, and even the older kids have never gone against Obi, to the best of my knowledge. So he still does have that as well as a distant as So it's just it was entertaining. It's cringe. It's hard, but it's all down to now and how I think it's a good opportunity for Obi to show his possible political arguments, possible leadership arguments.
Absolutely.
But Soludo is at the mercy of Obi.
Well,
he's walked into stupidity, and he doesn't even. That's why I say. Anyway.
Well, okay. So this is the way I look at it, right? If Obi wins, let's say Obi wins the presidency, I think that regardless of whether Soludo supported Obi or not, I think that Obi would want to put in his own man, a different person, as governor of Anambra. So we want to support a different person. I don't think he will go for Soludo unless Soludo somehow jumps to the Labour Party. Okay? So I think that in a lot of ways then, Soludo jumped the gun to say, hey, this man who is likely to threaten me if he becomes president, let me cast him down to begin with. But so the other thing is, when Soludo says that he's certain that Peter Obi is going nowhere, okay? And so that, in a sense, the political reality for the Igbo is that they should get together and negotiate with either of the two viable political parties or both of them and see what they can get in exchange for Igbo support and so on. It's going to strike a lot of people, rub a lot of people the wrong way, because it's like there's also among a lot of Igbo people a sense of historical wrong, that they have been excluded from political power at the very top, okay? And so if you come around again and you say to them, in this cycle, what we have to do is to play second fiddle or even third fiddle, or just, let's just negotiate with a group and support that group to win power, and then we'll see what they can give to us. It's not a bad political game, because if somebody is going to give me real infrastructural development I'll take that over having a figurehead vice president or even president who is not going to get too much, right? But the other thing is that Obi has inspired so many young people in Nigeria, both Igbo as well as from other parts of the country. And a lot of them won't know what to do with themselves if the elections come and go and they don't realize this hope that Obi is going to be president. And so a lot of these young men and women, as well as older people who have this hope, are shopping for somebody to blame, somebody to hang it on if Obi's dreams do not materialize. So in a lot of ways, Soludo has offered himself, as this main scapegoat who can be blamed. I mean, some people are going to say Obi was going to be president, then Soludo made this statement, and people ran away from Obi. Okay?
If Nnamdi Kanu comes out, instead of possibly taking out Obi, we'll just have a field day with Soludo moving forward. He'll just have a field day with Soludo.
You think so?
Yeah, because I know Nnamdi Kanu needs somebody to tackle.
I know Nnamdi Kanu has criticized Obi in the past. I think that we can't predict where Nnamdi Kanu will fall. I think Nnamdi Kanu is going to come out because I think there's a movement among Igbo youth for Obi. And I don't even think that Nnamdi Kanu can stop it. So if
but Nnamdi Kanu is, to some degree, he's a demagogue. To some degree, right? He's going to need some cattle. He's going to need some meat to catch. And Obi would have been probably his possible target. But now he has Soludo. He can just sit down there and butcher the guy. He can sit down and butcher. Look, man.
You're saying he will go after Soludo?
Oh yeah, it fits the bill. That way you have the core of what you might say the people who want self-determination and the Obi people. Nnamdi Kanu, we don't give people props when they succeed in certain ways. It's kind of like we've seen with Obama or Trump. People look for excuses instead of looking at, man, these guys are hugely talented. Trump had his finger on the pulse. Obama was that classic, in fact, maybe the best of the classic ever politicians we've ever seen. A guy that could give a stump speech. Let me not even go into Obama's system. I was going to just say that back for over like 100 years, the defining factor of a politician was to give a stump speech. And they give like 5 hours.
That talent has mostly been.
So people Nnamdi Kanu is that guy who. You can see some waves sometimes. He knows where, in my opinion, to be honest, I've never really listened to him whatsoever. I understand the sentiments of those who do, but I do not listen to Nnamdi Kanu. Not anything bad or good. I just feel like, people have a mindset, and I don't think they are willing to dive. A lot of them are willing to go all out for their mindset. I don't advise it if you're not, because if you are, then great. If you're not, then don't do it. But yeah, so Nnamdi Kanu, I think we just Soludo is because there's no way anybody sits down after unless Peter Obi wins down. Nobody's going to sit down and say like, "Yo, no." It's going to be a no.
Yeah,
a no. You are free to.
So where do you think this goes? Because my prediction is that Peter Obi is not going to respond. Officially, and that to the extent that he has a say in the matter, that he's not going to let any of his officials even respond to Soludo, so that in the end it's going to be a lose-lose in a sense for Soludo, because it'd be seen that he launched an unprovoked attack, and the target or the victim of his attacks just brushed it off and moved on. And I think that this is actually in Peter Obi's interest, political interest, ultimately, because if he responds I think that Soludo is determined to carry on the war, and some dust is going to, touch Obi, one way or another. So Obi is not going to go, because, again, Soludo has access to information that could be damaging to Peter Obi. We're not going to.
Soludo has this is why I don't like declarative statements. If you say, like Soludo said, I know more than you. Also, the polling people you are quoting are false.
Oh yeah,
are not polling people. So if that's the information you have, so look, you said it right. So we both agree. It's now down to Peter Obi. You want to
engage,
go into the mud and engage, which would be stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to engage, and I think that that's the best. So what I'm saying is that, of course, Obi's people are set in their commitment to him, but Soludo could always offer ammunition to Obi's opponents if he chose. It will make him a despised, loathed, hated man in the circles of Obi's supporters, but it could do damage. So I think that ultimately that Obi is going to brush it off and move on. And so eventually in a couple of months, we're going to have these elections, and we're going to see. I mean, the thing is actually one of that is Soludo touched on this central mystery. Is Obi really about to shake up the political system, or is he going to fizzle out?
How do we know?
And precisely. And so
how do we know?
In the past, we'll say he's going to be a fizzling candidate. There's no, but I think that young people have staked out a position in the current political calculations that we could be surprised. And this is where the dominant population in the country lies. Of course, the albatross will be is how do you reach the point that Soludo made? How do you reach the voter in the hinterland of Sokoto and Zamfara and Gombe and so on, who is not on social media, who may not even have a cell phone? How do you penetrate to this person? How do you convince this person that you have an agenda worthy of their trust? And
he has a campaign. He has a campaign.
Does he have a ground game at that level?
Look, a ground game is essentially like all this stuff of structure is all hype. A ground game is essentially get our people to vote. The only thing somebody put to me is like, look, man, most people in Nigeria, all they know is the symbol for which they're supposed to vote for. I'm like, so then there's your ground game. People say, well, Obi's event flopped here, like you said. I'm like, I saw early shots of some events which looked like it flopped, but I haven't seen actual shots that it flopped. Whether I was in Kaduna, whether I was Kano or Benue, I've seen people come out to this. So, and it was like the interview I was listening to yesterday was exactly what we're talking about at the end of last episode, right? Why is it that the Southeast and the South have the highest number of disqualified registrations by far? Why is it that most people are coming out to tell you, if you like, vote for him, if you like, don't vote for him, he's going to win? Don't care. So, the question is, will there be an election? If you're already disqualifying people, that means they're not even trying to audit the votes in. They're trying to tell you you're not even eligible. They are not copying gerrymandering. They are copying voter suppression. So, but even amongst those, if I would say, I'll put my money on it. There's a vote that was even 70% free, Obi wins.
You think
no question
so?
about it, man. 190%. I got no doubt in my mind. If there was a vote that is even 70% free, 70% actually counted.
Yeah.
I don't see how not. People don't. Unless you are.
I don't think. Okay,
unless you are okay, so
I haven't seen enough. I haven't seen enough.
To me, count all the people who are ethnically motivated. They would never vote for an Igbo candidate. One category. Then you count all the people who are who feel they will profit from their guy being there, either truly or mentally. Just, my guy's there, and I'm going to profit. Put them in that camp that will not vote. And then take a look at the interactions we have with people. Like, I just don't see how people are sitting down and in all honesty, they're telling themselves that Jagaban, Emiloka is the man for them. Atiku is the man for I don't see it.
There are some, I haven't let me put it this way. I think that there are some Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians, who have not, even in America. If you look at the last,
let me add this though. If the elections were held today, because I don't know what happens, the elections are in 3 months' time, about 15th, right? Elections are held today, as it is. Yes, Obi would have the majority of voters. The majority, he will have the highest amount of votes. Whether he wins or not, I don't know, but he will have the highest amount of votes. But yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting take. So you think that Soludo then just was talking out of his mind and all, because
If you tell me that guy is a professor of economics tomorrow, I don't believe it.
He is a professor of economics.
Even if you prove it to me, I don't believe it.
He is a professor of economics.
I don't believe it, man. He was talking like an area boy.
No. He may have. I think that he may have poor political skills, poor political calculations, but I think that his academic credentials are not in question, really.
No, because he comes out telling us about what he did and what he did that he didn't do and all this stuff. And even the bank stress test that he's consolidated the banks is highly questionable. All that stuff. I get what I'm not necessarily saying the guy, but I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that looking at that, if I thought the guy was something to Anambra had the golden child, I'm like, it looks like Anambra has a problem child, man. They need to go sort their problem child.
Well, the thing is that some strong academics could prove to be inept politicians. So that point can be made. But I don't think that one's political, and it remains to be seen whether his judgment call on Obi's prospects are wrong. We'll see. I mean, ultimately, we're going to witness the elections. We're going to see if they hold, and if they hold, whether they are credible to any extent, and if they are credible to any extent, whether Obi has a shot, or whether he makes the kind of impact that you are projecting that he's likely to make.
No,
anyway.
I said if it's 70% free. But let me say this.
Yes.
I do not expect they'll be free. So I do not necessarily expect to be over. So
good.
And we're already seeing it from the registrations too.
And that's
but not exactly for the reasons I stated. Not for that. If you sit down and say we're going to vote and people should vote, I don't see how. I was in how many states in Nigeria, Enugu, Lagos, and I don't see how people in Enugu are sitting down saying, I'm going to vote and I'm going to vote for PDP. Well, I might not vote for APC, but I ain't voting for PDP.
Yeah. Well,
like what has what they call it, buru.
Yes,
I'm going to vote for it.
Yeah.
I could see people genuinely like they voted for Soludo. The continuation of Abga from Obi to Obi and to this thing. And they see it as their party. They see it as something, this is their own, right? I could see that. But a lot of these elections, I don't see people like, if you had a free election in Lagos, I don't think APC would do well. They are they use touts, they use Agboro, they chase people. I mean, the list is endless. I was watching Dele Fasorati was talking about why they listen. Is like, look, he lives in Lucky Phase 1, which is for those that don't know, it's a highbrow area in Lagos. There's no borehole, there's no water, there's barely lights, there's no public school, none.
Yeah.
in Lekki Phase 1. There's not even one public school there. Wow, I was like, man.
Yeah. Well, I think we've done it. I think there's so much to look forward to, and we'll see how this whole controversy develops. And we'd like to thank you who have joined us, and we're here because of you, and we're enjoying these conversations, and we hope that you tune in. And do write to us, read the columns, and just be involved. And if you are in Nigeria, please vote. Have a brilliant rest of the week.
Thank you.
Okay.